Good Supreme Rising. I almost said good morning. Well, not morning. Supreme Rising, Supreme Rising. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We'll just give it a few minutes and let everyone check in and then kick it off in about 5 minutes. So if you're still grabbing a cup of tea or getting yourself comfortable and situated or burning some Palo Santo or incense, then now's a good time to do that. Morning, morning, morning. Good. Welcome, welcome. Thanks. See you in 5, Alex. So for those that are signing in, welcome. I was just saying we're going to give it 5 minutes to let everyone come in so I can admit everyone. Otherwise, I'm afraid I might start missing people. But feel free to grab a cup of tea, get yourself situated. If you're burning something, to cleanse the space and allow the good vibes to flow in, then it's a good time to do that. I'll see you in a bit. Great, great. So I hope everybody's back. Let's kick it off. And those that join later, I just hope that I can see them. And if I don't, oh well. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Supreme Grand Rising to you all. Thank you so much for making time to come and share, to come and listen to what I have to share, and hopefully, we can learn from each other. This masterclass isn't about putting people down or trying to make anyone feel bad. It's just about sharing information and sharing what's worked on my path. And I'm going to be, quite open and candid with some of the things that I've experienced and that I've gone through in my life, and some of the ways that I've managed to overcome them. Maybe you have other perspectives or other, experiences that you can share as well. So please don't look at it as a, preaching and trying to make people feel bad. It's all about just sharing information and growing and learning together and doing it in community. So Zoom gives us this lovely opportunity to connect, on the web space. And where we can't always physically meet, some people are far away, and I'm just glad that we're able to come together in this way. So thank you for that. A little bit about me before we jump in. I just want to check before I go on, can everybody hear me? If I can get a thumbs up, or if somebody could let me know if you can hear me and if you can see my screen right now. Either a mute or thumbs up. Fantastic. Thanks everyone. So as you can see, today we're here for this holistic wellness masterclass. Clearly, we're all interested in some aspect of wellness, and I'm here to share. Like I said, my name is Nyaki, known as Nyaki, mostly to people that know me very well, but you guys can call me Nyaki. But maybe if you see me on the LinkedIn space, my name is Nonhlanhla Halimana, and I've been on this journey for 38 years or 38 rotations, however you want to call it. And in the beginning part of my journey, I experienced a lot of sickness and ill health in my childhood. I was always sick. I related to the chest, asthma, allergies, dust. I couldn't run, I couldn't play sports, and I was, it kind of limited me a lot. And I got tired of being sick at some point, about 6 years ago. And I was just like, look, I'm tired of being mentally sick. I'm tired of being emotionally sick. I'm tired of being physically sick. There has to be a way for me to just unpack all of this stuff and figure out a natural way through. My key thing in this was I wanted to go natural, because I'd been on medication my whole life. If you deal with anyone with asthma, or if you have asthma yourself, the Ventolin struggle, you always have to have your pumps around you. And when you don't, everyone is panicking, even in the home, like, oh, she doesn't have a pump, we can't go on the road trip, or when you have those severe asthma attacks and you have to go on the nebulizer and spend a night in hospitals. That was kind of like my life as a child, and I just got sick of it, and it carried on into adulthood. And with adulthood comes more experiences, exploring yourself, exploring relationships, exploring your surroundings, and coming across painful moments, and not dealing with these moments always in the most effective way, and getting to a point where it was like, look, I can't keep hurting myself and hurting the people around me, including hurting myself with the medications that I'm putting in my body, because they had adverse effects. So about 6 years ago, I got to the point where I was like, look, I'm going to look for alternative solutions. I'm going to look for a way to heal myself. Like, I don't want that responsibility to be on somebody else. I was tired of going to the doctors and doctors not giving me any solutions. It's just, oh, here's another script. Take the cortisol, take this, you'll be fine. Apply the creams, the eczema will go down. And it's like, yeah, but I know what these steroids are doing to my skin. My skin is thinning as a result of these steroids that I'm putting on my skin and putting in my body. And I just, got to a point where I cut out doctors, and I was like, look, I'm going to do this by myself. If I die, I die. But I mean, what's the harm in trying? So I started investigating the plant-based lifestyle, and I found that there's a lot of merit in alkalizing the body and finding natural ways to heal using the plant kingdom. And along the way, I discovered yoga. And, about 2 years ago, I started embarking on my teaching journey. And here I am 6 years later into this journey. And I'm now in a place where I feel like I'm ready to share, and I'm ready to, open myself up and learn as well, and find out, what some of the struggles are, and see if we can find a way to find natural solutions using what's available in the plant kingdom. So that's kind of a bit about me, but I guess, as we go along today, you'll hear more, and hopefully we can, share as we go along as well, and I can learn from you as well. So yeah, I had that slide up. Sorry, excuse me. Just navigating Zoom. So as you can see today, we're gonna, start with the welcome. We're a bit over time, but I'll try and manage the time to the best of my ability, knowing that there's quite a bit of information to share. And I thought it would be great to kind of start with the guided relaxation or guided meditation, just to calm down, ease into the space, and allow what comes to come. And yeah, that's pretty much how it will kick off. And in terms of any housekeeping announcements, excuse me, if you have a question, please feel free to raise your hand. If I don't see you, maybe if I'm using the screen, maybe just unmute yourself and say, look, I've got a question. Can we stop here and break this down? I'm very happy to do that. But if possible, if you could reserve the questions to the end, where we've got a Q&A slot, and I'll try and run through the presentation as quickly as possible. Maybe it sparks some debate, but I'm also going to try and manage time as well. So that's pretty much the rundown for today. We're just gonna, kick it off with the guided meditation. And wherever you're sitting, if you'd like to maybe sit on the floor, if you'd like to put your camera on, that's also okay. But if you want to keep it off, it's also all right, no problem. If you're, sitting at your desk or sitting on the floor, wherever you are, just get comfortable. Whether that's in a seated position or whether you're lying down, doesn't really matter. Just taking a few breaths, closing the eyes. Beginning to relax the body. Giving yourself permission to pause and breathe and just reflect. That's all we're doing. Starting to focus on your breathing. Just notice how your breath is flowing. As breath may be jerking, or the breath's long and smooth. Just notice without judgment. Relax your forehead. Relax your cheekbones. Relax the corners of your mouth. Soften and relax your jaw. That's it. Relax your neck. Relax your shoulders. Relax your arms, your elbows. Relax your forearms, your wrists, and your fingers. Softening and relaxing the chest. Relax your abdomen. Relax your hips, your hip bones. Relax your pelvic floor muscles, your anal and genital muscles. Relax your thighs. Relax the front of the knees. Relaxing and breathing. That's it. Relax your shins. Relax your ankles, the tops of your feet, and relax your toes. That's good. Relax the bottoms of your feet, backs of the ankles, and relax your calf muscles. Relax the backs of the knees. Just allow them to be soft. Relax the backs of the thighs. Relax your glutes and your lower back. Letting go of any tension. And clenching and releasing. Allowing yourself to be soft. Relax your back. If you're sitting tall and straight. Relaxing the shoulders, backs of the shoulders. Softening. And letting go. And breathing. That's all we're doing. Relax the back of the neck. Relax the back of the head. Relax the top of the head. As you inhale, exhale, softening and relaxing your skin all over your body. It's good. Diving deeper into your internal environment. Begin to notice your thoughts. Noticing without engaging. And trying to analyze. Simply looking and observing what is there. Not judging whether the thoughts are right or whether they're wrong. Simply noticing. Always coming back to the breath. Anytime you find yourself going off with a thought, it's perfectly normal. But when you do find yourself, just come back to the inhale and the exhale. Just like that. Maintaining relaxation and softness in the body. And this is what we call being fully present or aware in the moment. Not concerned about future events. or what's happened in the past. You're just present with yourself right now. This peaceful, quiet place. Starting to come back. Gently bringing your awareness back to the room that you're in, the space that you're in. Noticing yourself seated or lying where you are. Wriggling the fingers and wriggling the toes. Gently bringing back all senses intact. Becoming aware of the temperature of the room that you're in. A little more aware of the sounds around you. The sounds that are further away. Bringing your hands together, keeping the eyes closed, gently rubbing your hands together just to warm them up. And cupping them over your face. Blinking your eyes open, allowing the light to come in through your fingers. Taking your time. And bringing your hands to heart center. Namaste. Good. How's everybody feeling? Does anyone want to share? Oh, thank you, Zen. That's great. Anyone else want to share? That's fine if you don't. All good. Good. So, super chilled. Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. So, just to get a sense of who's in the room, who has never meditated before? Was that the first time you meditated? Thanks, Anele, feeling relaxed. Great. Was that anyone's first time meditating, or you've all meditated before? You can unmute yourselves. Guys, it's a little lonely here. Okay, great, great.
I've meditated before, but oh, sorry, Nyaki, I didn't even say who I am. I'm Nomlelo.
Hi, Nomlelo.
Hi, I've meditated before, but I haven't done it in like years. And it was, so lately, like at the beginning of this year, I started again. And I find it so hard now because I'm constantly like thinking about what I need to do next or listening to what's going on outside. And my mind is like constantly all over the place. And I swear, like right now, I was like, my head was all over the place. And I'm like, okay, calm down, come back. But I keep going all over the place. And unlike previous years ago when I did it, like I used to feel so calm afterwards, or actually like get into this relaxed mode. And right now I'm constantly just so anxious. I don't know why.
Yeah, and that's perfectly normal. You know, meditation, like any other practice, is something that you build over time. And the more you do it, the better it is to start not necessarily switching off the mind. The mind doesn't switch off as long as you're in this incarnation, in this body. Your mind will always be going. But as you become a more experienced meditator, you learn to kind of just watch the mind, you know, and take a step back and become that, you know, silent, non-judgmental observer of the mind, you know. So don't worry, it's like that. And sometimes it's not, it's you know, like depending on the kind of day you've had or the kind of people you've interacted with, it's hard for me to switch off the mind as well, you know. So the thing is just to sit there and train the body and train the mind and just, you know, if that's where you're at today, then just you know, accept that's where you're at today, and you know, tomorrow, you know, will be a different experience. So don't beat yourself up. It's normal. It happens to everybody.
Oh, okay, cool. Thanks.
Great. Anyone else care to share? Or I guess we can, if not, then we can just kick it off. But if there's anyone who wants to share, please feel free. I don't want to rush anyone. Okay, no problem. So I've prepared a few slides just to help me keep my mind focused and help me keep my thought train on the rails, because as you can imagine with these things, it can get quite exciting and become a bit more difficult to manage the train of thought. So just thumbs up, can you see my screen? And if anybody could let me know if you can see my screen. Thumbs up. Okay, thanks. Thanks for that. Thanks, guys. Great. So yeah, let's just kick it off. And this topic that is holistic wellness is such a vast topic. I don't think we could ever cover it in one such session, but what I will do is try and kind of touch on the main key aspects. And as we go along, you'll see that there's so many layers and so many depths to this topic. But I think whoever coined this term holistic wellness was trying to kind of put all of these concepts together. So the way I view holistic wellness is from looking at the dimensions of the human being, right, of the human existence, because we're dealing with humans. We are human beings. We are in these bodies, if you see it that way. And the dimensions of a human being, we can't escape the physical, we can't escape the mental, emotional, and we also can't escape the spiritual. These are things that that constitute our human experience, right? Physical, mental, spiritual, within this body, and how we interact with the world around us. So when we're talking about the physical body, we're talking about food that we eat, experiences, security, shelter, the things that keep this body, that keep this body moving, and that can either heal or not heal, or not be so great for the body. And when we're talking about the physical, we can't escape the conversation about the food that we eat. We know that there's a direct correlation with certain diseases as well, in relation to the food that we eat. And certain other diseases might be in relation to mental or emotional kind of pain and challenges as well. And some of these can be triggered by the food that we eat, or can be triggered or are a result of experiences that we've had, whether past or whether in this incarnation, or sometimes it's as a result of being born into a certain family. Your genetic makeup is such that you're predisposed to X, Y, and Z, etc., etc. So, also just a disclaimer, this isn't like, I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not like, covering everything that there is, but these are things that I've experienced from my personal journey, and this is how I've experienced life. So we know that the dimensions of a human being, we're talking physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, right? And when we are in holistic, or we are healthy, or we are in wellness, when these dimensions are kind of taken care of, right? Like when we are moving, when we are taking care of our spiritual practices, whatever that is for you, when we're, taking care of our psyche, our mind, our emotional bodies, we're in a general state of wellness. And we know that when these things are not taken care of as well, whether you're maybe ignoring the mental, or ignoring the physical, or ignoring all three, or one of, whatever combination it is, one of the other aspects will suffer. And maybe just to bring it to the human body, and talk about, the physical makeup, we know that the body is made up of, about 65% water. They say 65 to 70% of water, and about 18% carbon. So we know that all living beings are carbon-based beings. So anything that is natural and living has carbon within it, a natural life form. Hydrogen, nitrogen, as well as others, and oxygen also is a big component of that as well. And when we are not taking in good water, when we're not drinking enough water, or we're drinking the wrong kind of fluids, then we upset this body balance, right? Or they call it the microbiome within the body. And how we take care of the physical, I think, it's always important to start with the food that we eat. And this has been a game changer for me. If you know me, you know that I'm all about, the holistic alkaline lifestyle, plant-based lifestyle, and not just in terms of the food that we eat, but also the things that we apply on our bodies. Skincare is very important, and I'll talk about that later. The types of foods that we eat, do they contain preservatives? Do they contain things that are hormone disruptors, things that upset the body balance and the mental balance? Or are we taking in foods that are high in water content, high in nutrient content, high in vibrational or energy or available life force energy within that food? Or are we taking in low vibrational foods that then cause our energy and our vibration to decrease? So I think it's so important when we're talking about holistic health to always look at the 5 elements around us, right? We know that the 5 elements are air, water, fire, earth, ether, or spirit, however you care to see it, right? And when we're talking about air, we're talking about breath, you know. As we were doing our meditation, we didn't do any breath work, but, you know, the breath is so important as well to ensure that, you know, you're breathing well, to ensure that you're getting in as much oxygen as you can into your cells, and also to ensure that, you know, there's a relation between, you know, when your breath is not how do I put it? When your breath is not flowing with ease, you know, if there's jerks in the breath and your breath is not long and smooth, and you're not, you know, constantly aware of your breath, or you're breathing shallow, you're breathing into the chest, you know, this then already starts upsetting the mind, because, you know, in order to control the mind, we need to control the body first, right? We need to take care of the physical things. And the breath is like the common thread that, you know, has been with us throughout our lives, right? And you can always tell, you know, when, you know, when you're in a good space and how you stand and how you breathe versus when you're not in a good space, you know, you kind of tend to hunch and try and close off. And we want to be in a state where we're opening up the lungs, and whatever it is that does that for you, whether it's running, whether it's yoga, whether it's pranayama, whether it's asana, whether it's whatever it is, make sure that, you know, our breath and, you know, the intake of life force energy is not hindered, you know, in any way. And I can especially attest to this growing up as an asthmatic child, as an asthmatic adult. Breath was like precious for me. You know, if you know anyone with asthma, or if you're asthmatic yourself, you know that it feels like your chest is congested with thick phlegm, and somebody heavy is sitting on your chest and you can't breathe, right? It's a very scary place to be. And I never want to go back there. And I'm so glad that, you know, I was able to clear my lungs and, you know, open up and, you know, learn how to take in breaths adequately. So this is something that, you know, I know we've got some yogis in the house that, as yoga practitioners, that, you know, is key. You know, we need to make sure that we're breathing light, and you need to learn how to breathe well. And there are techniques for breathing, you know, when you're not in a great state, versus techniques for breathing when you're in a, you know, a more better state. And then there are techniques for breathing when you want to get into a more calm state. So there's different ways of regulating the breath. I won't go too deep in that, but that's something that we definitely look at as part of you know, the holistic, when you're looking at yoga as a practice, holistically. So that's something interesting to consider if it's something you've never looked at before. And then, you know, air also talks to life force energy, you know, what we call prana, and it's subtle, right? It's a subtle energy. It's not something that you can touch or that you can see, but we know that it's there, right? And we know that it's important for us to function as human beings. And like I said, you know, when the breath is not optimum, then it already affects the mind, it already affects the physiology. We want to make sure that we keep the breath optimum and keep that life force energy flowing in as efficiently as possible, also so we can take in oxygen, right? And then the air element also relates to spiritual, you know, like I think once you start becoming more aware of your breath, you start becoming more aware of the subtle, you know, the subtler things, the subtle energies, you know, you start, you know, becoming a little more in tune to things. And I won't go too much into that, but, you know, just so you're aware that these are the 5 elements that I've incorporated into my life that have kind of, you know, started helping me on the journey towards healing. Water, we know that the body is made up of mostly water, as we mentioned, and also plant-based foods are full of water. And we know that we need to drink a certain amount of water in order to ensure that, you know, the body is functioning at an optimum, that the body is able to wash out the cells, cleanse the cells, you know, at a cellular level, cleanse the body, make sure that elimination is taking place efficiently. And when you're not drinking enough water, you know, then it causes a hardening of the stools, which causes constipation, which causes bloating, which causes, you know, the what do you call it, bloating, basically, that barrel shape around our abdomens, right? And if we're just talking physiologically as women, I can't relate to the male experience, but as women, we know that physiologically your intestines are sitting right on top of your birth center, your energy, your creation center, your ovaries, basically, your reproductive center. And if there's too much weight in terms of your colon on top of your womb, let me just put it like that, it can cause prolapsing of the womb, it can cause blockages, it can cause other kind of problems or difficulties even in conceiving, just because it's weight on top of your womb. And as soon as we start clearing that constipation and start clearing, the pipes, basically, and clearing all that backlog away, number one, we start easing up the pressure on our wombs, which means we're able to start creating and start being more in our feminine energy. And number two, we also ensure that nutrient absorption can take place in the gut, because there's nutrient absorption taking place throughout this process, right? And if you have backlog, basically means there's plaque on the inside of your colon, and the capillaries cannot actually get to the food that it needs to, absorb. So even if you're, eating a salad, let's say, and you're, on a diet that's not so great, and I'm talking about acidic rich foods, starches, flesh, sweets, all the stuff, we know all the stuff. If you're on a 70% diet doing that, or 70% or 80% of the time you're doing that, and 20% of the time you're eating salad, it's still not going to make a dent, because we need to clear all of that out. And in order to clear it out, we need to stop putting it in the first place. Okay, so we need to ensure that there's that balance taking place. So as soon as you start clearing the colon, you'll notice that your skin starts getting better. You might, go through breakouts. This is what we're going through. The healing process isn't pretty, but just keep that in mind as you move forward. That water is so important as well, and there's a whole intelligence taking place. With all of these elements that we're using to heal ourselves. And then with fire, I know that fire is the heat, fire burns, it's that spark energy, that masculine energy or sun energy. And we also use fire to cleanse, right? We use fire to cleanse, with smudge sticks, with the Palo Santos, with the white sage. We use the smoke to cleanse, because we know that plants contain healing power, right? And sorry, can everybody see my screen? It looks like it went off for a bit. All right, I'll just continue. Right, so we know that fire cleanses, and we use these elements as well. Fire boils, and we can make teas and tinctures and all of that using the element. So just keep that in mind as we move along, and see how this all comes together. And then obviously the earth, we're talking about our physical needs, food, shelter, security, our day-to-day needs. We're talking about mother, we're talking about moon energy, we're talking about feminine energy, and fertility, right? So the earth has given us everything that we need in terms of what we need for our healing, what we need for our sustenance. And sometimes we miss the blessings because we're too involved in this material world, to see that actually nature has always been there for us, and still is there for us despite everything that's happening. So yeah, if this is, like I said, if this is new for you, just go with it with an open mind, and see how this resonates with you. Then of course, ether, spirit, all source, or that transcendence. Once we start healing ourselves, and we start peeling back the layers of our consciousness, and this is a process that never ends. They say you never really quite arrive. There's always more to strive for, and more to achieve in terms of our spiritual journey. So yeah, that's just an overview of what it means when we're talking about holistic health. We're talking about all the dimensions of a human being, and I mean there's many different branches of study, that take this further, and I'm just kind of trying to put it all together in as short time space as possible while managing time. So this is not at all exhaustive. So yeah, when we're talking about the human experience, so this is taken from a yogic perspective, but I mean, forget the yogic perspective. This is actually just, if you think about it, it should be common sense that, you know, there are 5 sheaths or 5 layers that form up the human's existence, right? And I kind of broke them down into 3, but I suppose, you know, you could break them down further into 5, right? And we have the physical body, you know, that we've spoken about, the physical body that needs the food. And, you know, this is basically the experience that you experience your physical body when you wake up in the morning, right? When you come out of the dream state, you wake up into the physical body. This is what we're talking about. And, you know, this relates to physical functions such as movement, such as digestion, et cetera, et cetera. And we've spoken about the things that kind of slow down digestion, you know, too many acidic foods, too much starchy foods, et cetera, et cetera. And another thing that is very important that I wanted to touch on is, it's so interesting. I find it interesting when we talk about fasting for healing, right? If you've never heard about, you know, fasting, or, you know, or not necessarily never heard about it, I think we've all heard about it or never experienced it for yourself. I highly encourage, you know, fasting on a regular basis. Initially, depending on or whatever you're dealing with, you know, maybe you want to do a longer extended fast, whether it's a juice fast, whether it's a water fast, it depends on, you know, what you're going through and, you know, what it is that you're trying to achieve, or maybe it's just smoothies, or maybe it's a fast, you know, from starches or a fast from meat, whatever that is for you. I highly recommend that you go through that process, and that within that process, you know, that there's layers, you know, like, you know, you can start by just eating vegetables and then say, okay, maybe I'm just going to do smoothies for now. Maybe I'm just going to do fruits for now, or maybe I'm just going to do juices or water, whatever it is for you. Just, you know, measure yourself according to where you're at. You know, if you've never done it before, I wouldn't recommend going all the way in. Ease yourself into it so that, you know, your mind doesn't trip you up. You know, like we said, you know, you want to control the mind, we need to control the body. So we do it step by step, right? So that's the physical body. And whenever we have blockages, like I said, you know, this relates to physical movement, and physical movement includes digestion. I just want to zoom in on that one. Whenever we have blockages within our body, you know, this is what causes problems or starts causing problems within our physical body, and then later on into our minds, right? And then it trickles into the emotions, and it, you know, it starts bleeding into other areas of our lives. So in order to get started with anything, you know, if you're going to make any changes in your life, I would highly recommend to start looking at your physical body and start looking at the food that you're putting in your body, the things that you're putting on your skin, and start researching a little more about, you know, what it is that you're putting into your vehicle. You know, the simple analogy, you know, you've got an amazing Rolls Royce, whatever, Phantom. I don't know about cars. You got this amazing Rolls Royce Phantom, you know, it works amazing. It's, I don't know if Rolls Royce is German engineered, whatever it is. And then you're putting in like oil from, you know, that they use to make chips. And that's the oil you want to power your car with, you know, or do you want to, you know, put in premium, you know? So kind of start looking at what you put in your body and what you're putting and who you're surrounding around yourself, surrounding around yourself as, you know, is this the great oil, you know, is this premium 95 whatever, or am I putting in chips oil into a vehicle that, you know, deserves better? So just, you know, think about that for a bit. And second to that, you know, we have the breath body, what they call the energy body. And this is a more subtle aspect of the body. But I would say this also relates to, you know, your life force energy, the breath that we spoke about when we spoke about the air element, prana, basically what powers the body. And you want to start looking at exercises or practices that promote optimal pranic flow or life force energy flow. And like I said, these are found within breath work, right? very focused, targeted breath work, depending on what it is that you're trying to achieve, or what it is that you're trying to heal, or whatever it is that you're trying to do. This is something that's very, 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 very important if you're starting to look at healing holistically. And then we have what they call the emotional body, or the mind body. And this also relates to the ego, basically, right? This is something that's not tangible, but you could relate it to the mind as well, and the physical body's existence. And we know what egotistical people are like, and we know what people who are not so egotistical are like. Like with everything, it's energy. There's poles to it. There's the extreme pole, and then there's the lesser extreme pole, and both are not ideal places to be. We kind of always want to be balanced somewhere in the middle, right? And when we're in too much, or into one pole too much, then we want to kind of bring it back to balance. And same thing if you're on the other extreme. So it's kind of like that dance with good and bad, black and white. It's what kind of keeps this this existence, this dimension going, the poles. But you want to be aware of them, and these poles exist within ourselves as well. And basically all that we're trying to do with all of this holistic wellness and becoming more aware of ourselves is basically to bring yourself back to yourself. Is to bring yourself back to yourself, where you know what you need. When you need to fast, and nobody needs to come and tell you, hey, it's time to fast now. You're so in tune with yourself that you know what it is that you need to do. You know that, during your period, or during your cycle, or whatever it is that you're going through, you need to do certain practices that help ease this process, or that work with this process within the body, rather than, causing more damage. So ideally during your period, or during your moon cycle, you'd want to ease up on starchy food, on dense food. You'd want to try and eat more fresh food, more vital food, to allow the body, to facilitate the process of elimination and cleansing, rather than adding more toxic foods to your system when your body is already trying to rid itself of toxins and waste and dead cells, right? I hope this makes sense. Similar, when we're talking about the mind body as well, this is where emotions, this is where thoughts, this is where that space where that process takes place. And we know that, thoughts, a small thought can become such a big thing. And this is, where a lot of anxiety, a lot of pain and suffering takes place in our mental space. And a lot of us aren't addressing a lot of these issues. Some, if you're doing it, great, but the majority of people, if you look around, are dealing with big things and are just shoving it to the back and shoving it to the back and shoving it to the back. And at some point, this shows up within the body. So we want to make sure that our emotional body is taken care of, that our mental space is taken care of, and that we learn to know that we are not our thoughts. You're not your thoughts, and you're not your past. You need to differentiate yourself from that. You are this person having an experience, and every day is an opportunity for you to learn more about yourself, right? And if you tie your past experiences or your thoughts to who you are as an individual, then we're all terrible people, as far as I'm concerned. But that's not the case, right? That's not the case. It's just thoughts. And thoughts that we give, energy, whatever we give energy grows, right? And emotions as well. It's good to feel your emotions. I'm not saying run away from them, but at some point, we need to come to a point where we're balanced and at center and able to recognize these things even before they become anything in our mental space. You're able to pick it up in the energy field and be like, no, that's not for me. Burn your incense or burn your sage or whatever it is that you need to do. Take your spiritual bath and cleanse yourself from that and release yourself from that and keep it moving. Good. So then we're looking at the intellectual body, or higher knowledge, or higher mind, right? And this is the place that we're all trying to get to, where we're no longer operating from the egoic mind or the emotional body or mind body. We kind of transcend that. In yogic terms, they call this the buddhi. the higher mind, and they say, to test everything against that. So any wrong decisions, any booty calls, you're about to reach and get that, that lunch bar, test with your higher mind, your higher self, that all-knowing self, the one that doesn't need, confirmation or doesn't need approval from anyone. That higher self, that inner guidance, that knowing, always test your decisions with that. That's essentially what we're saying, and if we can move away from testing our decisions or basing our decisions or our lives on the emotional or ego body and kind of transcend that, then that growth is taking place. But let me not even sugarcoat it and say, yeah, step 1, physical body, check. Step 2, breath body, check. Step 3, emotion. It doesn't work like that. It's an up and down. It's an up and down process. Sometimes you get tripped up by the ego. The mind is a very clever thing. That's why was it Zanele was saying, was it Nomblelo was saying, it's difficult to get to that meditative place because the mind is just going, and the mind is very clever and it will trick you, right? But what we are saying through this holistic process, and what I found through my own yoga practice as well, is that you need to give the mind something to do, right? If you can give the mind is like a little kid, just give it something to do while you're focusing on the meditation or the relaxation, like focus on the breath. In yoga circles, we talk about, the single-mindedness of the breath, of the mind. This is what we're all aiming to achieve, where your mind is just able to focus on one point and the rest is just quiet and still. Even though there's everything going around. That's why you see these amazing monks in the middle of cities, or on the tops of mountains. Basically, they say wherever you put them, whether it's in the city, whether it's on the top of the mountain, whether it's in the cave, in the Himalayas, whatever, his peace is always with them, or her peace is always with her, So it doesn't mean that, what we're saying is at some point you'll get to a point where you don't need to be in a quiet room to be able to get to that meditative state. Wherever you are, you bring the meditative state with you. It's within you. You don't have to go and find it in a room. It's always with you, right? And this is essentially what we're aiming for, to get into that higher mind. And within that higher mind, I think that's where humanity will start coming together, because we're no longer judging ourselves against, poles, color, racial tension, xenophobia, it's just extremes of the same thing, good and bad, right? And in as much as there's racial tension, there can be unity as well, right? Unity consciousness. And this is what we're all aiming for at some point, to get to a point where all of this doesn't matter. It's all about who are you here, right? And yeah, I hope this is making sense. Please feel free to stop me. Like I said, if anything's not making sense or you want to chime in, I'm happy to hear from you. So, like I said, also with the higher mind, and with this growth process, it's not something that you arrive at and you're like, right, I'm here, this is where I'm staying, I put my flag down, I'm chilling. It's always a learning process. There's always more to learn. There's always more to strive for, right? And there's layers to consciousness, right? It's like an onion. You're peeling the onion to yourself, and there's just always more and more and more and more to discover. And there's never really an arrival. If you're a true student of, the journey called life, you keep growing. Okay. And lastly, then they have what they call the bliss body. And this is what we experience when you're in deep states of relaxation or meditation. This is what we're looking for within that meditative state. And like I said, it's elusive because you're dealing with the physical body, you're dealing with the emotional body, you're dealing with everything else around you. And it's not an easy thing to achieve. But, if you have tasted that, that sweet nectar, they call it, it's like, once you taste it, you just always want more. And this is why the practice and the journey is not just the once off, like, okay, I've done my 21-day cleanse, done my smoothies, back to McDonald's. Don't do that to yourself. Don't do that to yourself, because you're stunting your own growth. Once you've achieved one milestone, move on to the next in terms of your health and your holistic wellness. Now that you can do the splits, great, yay. You haven't arrived. There's always more to learn. There's always more to strive. And we try and stay out of the emotional body as well as we're doing that, and kind of start looking within and finding, what more can I shed? What more can I heal within yourself? And when we're in this bliss body as well, this is what they call enlightenment, right? And I like to say this is when the lights switch on. The word enlightenment, relates to the switching on of something, right? And this is what they call the light switching on. And essentially, this is all the lights within the body. We know that the body is made up of sound, light, vibration, and the physical, right? And spirit, all these elements that we mentioned. And when the lights switch on, essentially, it's all the, the wheels or the chakras or the lights within your body coming online, right? And this is when now the Kundalini energy is able to, flow. This is when the hemispheres between the two brain, actually, yeah, the two brains, the left and the right brain fuse. And, you're no longer in that duality. You're now in that oneness that we're all achieving. And this is something that through the yoga practice, I've also found, especially when doing asana, the physical practice, you touch on all of these aspects of, the chakra system, the light system, the nadis, or the, what do they call it? The energy channels within the body. You're addressing it through that practice. And it's such an intelligent science, I would say, in that it's not just physical as in, oh, I'm stretching and I look sexy. It's so much deeper. And I wish, we could move away from the mainstream aspect of it and actually use it as a tool to get to know ourselves better. And certainly it's helped me, and it's helping me, get to know myself better, especially when times are tough. When times are tough, this is when we need to, tap in deeper into ourselves rather than focus on what's going on outside. We need to make sure that within ourselves that we are balanced so that we can be of service and that we can be lights out there in the world rather than add to, what already is going on or what already is wrong with the world or wrong with situations. So I would say in the times that we're in, this is the perfect time to actually go back to self. Any practice that pulls you away from the knowledge of self is not the practice for you. Whatever it is that you decide to engage with, let it be something that gets you back to yourself. And that, I think, is the most important education that we'll ever need. That's just my opinion. And and ultimately, this is where we now start talking about that transcendence, the transcendental awareness, where you're just connected to the source, you're connected to everything. You know everything that's going on. You're all knowing, because we're all knowing. This is our natural state. It's just that with social conditioning and social programming, we find ourselves in a state where we're dependent on outside sources for our existence, for our knowledge, for our food, whereas all of these things reside within us. And we're just getting back to learning and unlearning and relearning about ourselves. So this is essentially the process that we're talking about. Moving along, just want to check time. Okay. So I'll try and run through this as quickly as possible. I thought 2 hours would be enough, but let's see how it goes. So when we're talking about the plant-based lifestyle, right? And I'm not talking about plants as in factories. I'm talking about plants as in the animal kingdom. This is where we're focusing on eating food that comes from plants. We've mentioned this. And this includes, if this is new for you, this includes fruits, vegetables, nuts, whole grains, legumes, and this excludes acidic foods. And when we're talking about acidic foods, we're talking about meat, flesh, eggs, dairy, starches, fried foods, sugar, sweets, chips, fizzy drinks, alcohol, coffee. Sorry for the coffee lovers, but I'm talking about the alkaline lifestyle. Coffee is a plant, maybe in moderation, but not certainly 4 or 5 cups a day. That's not good for you. It's terrible for your adrenals, and it's terrible for somebody who suffers from anxiety to drink a lot of coffee. It's just going to get you more fired up. once in a while is good, but we don't want things to become habits that that then hinder us from our growth or hinder us from our healing, right? And we know that studies have shown, we've had surgeons, heart surgeons, everybody who's come out and proven the benefits of a plant-based lifestyle, for reducing diseases, diabetes, cancers. I can certainly add asthma, fibroids. I suffered from fibroids, and through this practice, I've reduced my moon cycle from 5 to 7 days of like heavy bleeding, clotting, unbearable pain, and this was from when I was a teenager, to 1 to 2 days of light flow. When it's heavier, or when it's a bit painful, it means I've had some starch or fast food, or the stuff that I know is not so great, still plant-based, but like we said, with everything, there's poles, there's degrees, there's the good stuff and there's not so good stuff, all within the same spectrum, right? So that's been my experience. And also maybe just to touch on fibroids here, this is as a result of too much starch. This is also a result of emotional, not dealing with emotions, deep hurts, not addressing these things. This ends up, forming tumors in our wombs. And I can definitely look back as I'm going through my practice now, and as I'm doing the healing work, situations and things that happened to me in the past come to mind, and I realize, oh, I'd completely forgotten about that. And as I'm going through this meditation, or as I'm going through this cleansing, this comes up, and then I realize, oh, this is my womb talking to me. The womb speaks to you. We just cut ourselves off from it and do what we want to do because, hey, I'm here and YOLO, I must do my thing, and some of the things that we're doing are contributing to the state of disease within our bodies, right? So I can definitely attest to fibroids, asthma, eczema. The eczema and the asthma was food allergies, gluten for me, and certain foods that contains preservatives. That's a big trigger for me. So I just stay away from the stuff as well. And the stuff that I put on my skin now is all natural. And what I love about this plant-based lifestyle as well is that it's opened up opportunities for entrepreneurs to now start bringing solutions. Like, okay, so we're saying we don't want to use, mass-produced skincare that, includes certain harmful preservatives or chemicals in it. Then what are we going to use? Enter, entrepreneurship opportunities where we're now creating our own things, and we're providing solutions, and able to empower others to do the same and find their niche and find their voice, and bring solutions that will ultimately help us, uplift humanity and get us to empower ourselves. I'm all about self-empowerment. Do it yourself. Run your life yourself, without any outside intervention. That's ultimately the aim. This is what we're aiming for: sovereignty, where no one can come and say, okay, now you need to do this so that you can do this. No, I eat when I say I want to eat, because all I have to do, if I'm lucky enough to have a garden and, grow my own food, all I have to do is decide, okay, I'm going to get some spinach and that's what I'm going to have, or whatever, this is what we're aiming for. So maybe just to touch on pH and alkalinity, the normal blood rate, pH is hydrogen potential. The normal blood has a pH of 7.35 to 7.45. So it means the blood is alkaline or basic, right? And whenever we eat an alkaline-rich diet, plant-based foods, this can help counter the effects. But we don't want to eat too much alkaline. Like I said, there's extremes, but we don't want to eat too much acid either. We want to kind of find the balance. So this is where fermented foods come in, your cheeses, and there's cheeses and fermented foods, with a spectrum within the plant-based kingdom as well. So doing all of this stuff yourself and ensuring that you're getting the necessary biotics, pre and probiotics within your diet as well. Gut health is a big thing. If you also want to start looking at emotional and mental and spiritual balance, we need to address the health of our guts. And we all know that, they say there's a sixth sense within the gut, or that knowing, my gut feel, my gut tells me this, and sometimes we just cancel that thing. There is an actual brain in the gut. If we, look at where life begins in the belly button, right? The umbilical tube starts there, the division of life. If you know about the flower of life or sacred geometry, I would encourage you to start looking into these things. It all starts there, So if we're canceling that and we're feeding that with foods that are not good and not giving it, the best possible chance, then how can you listen to your gut? How can you even hear yourself when, when it's blocked? So think about that. Yeah, some of the foods, things that are important for optimum health include chlorophyll, which is a green pigment found in plants. You can see that's the green hue, the green color that we get from, your leafy greens, your spinach, your green apples, lettuce, all of these things. And it stimulates the immune system. That's why we're all about the green. It detoxifies the blood and it energizes the body. Iron is very, very important. It's a mineral that helps to make hemoglobin, which helps to transport oxygen to the blood, and also helps the body to function optimally and treat anemia, right? And iron is found in rich leafy greens and sweet potatoes as well. So, if you're not eating enough or you've got an iron deficiency, start looking at your kale, your spinach, your bok choy, leafy greens, anything with leaves, but not iceberg lettuce. Please, please, not iceberg lettuce, that ball of lettuce. Not good. That's dead. That's got nothing in it for you. Look at the leafier lettuces, the ones with color. That's what you're looking for, green, purple, etc., etc. Another thing that we need to make sure that we're getting in our bodies is magnesium. Magnesium is the fourth most abundant mineral found in the body, and it helps with energy creation, protein formation, and gene maintenance. And we know that, proteins are the building blocks of the body, right? And contrary to popular belief, we don't need to get our protein from animal sources, because all you have to do is look at what the animals are eating, which is green, to figure out that that's where the protein source is, right? So if you weren't aware, most of the foods that we eat in the plant-based kingdom contain protein anyway. Leafy greens, nuts, seeds, legumes, all of that contains protein anyway. So you can bypass that and bypass a triple bypass or, some colon problems and get to the source yourself, right? And I also highly recommend taking regular magnesium salt or Epsom salt baths, which aid in detoxification. And we know that the skin is porous, right? So whatever you apply on your skin gets pulled in by the skin, right? And it also absorbs magnesium through these baths into your body for optimal function. So make sure that, twice or thrice a week, you take those regular salt baths, pour in some essential oils. You can use lavender, which is relaxing, or rose oil or frankincense, or whatever it is that you want to put in there. We know that plants or essential oils are also great for promoting healing, right? And we spoke about water. We know it's important. Up to 60% of the adult body is made up of water. The brain and heart have about 73% of water. The lungs have about 83% of water. Skin, 64%. The muscles and kidneys have about 79%. Sorry, I'm just throwing out these stats. And the bones have 31%. So we need to drink a certain amount of water to survive. And an adult needs about 2 to 3 liters. And we know that the water doesn't only come from liquids, your teas, etc. Some of it comes from the food that we eat, fresh fruits and vegetables. And as far as possible, we should try and cook our food as little as possible so that we can absorb as many nutrients as possible. We lessen the bioavailability of nutrients when we cook food. There's some foods that you can't escape cooking, but if you can, as far as possible, make sure at least 80 or 70 to 80% of the plate is, raw, or as raw as possible, and then the rest can be cooked. And or maybe you want to play around with eating maybe raw 5 days a week, and then weekends, that's when you eat your cooked food. However you decide to do it, whatever balance you find, just try and, have goals for yourself. Like, ultimately, I'm going to go, completely raw, and that's not an easy thing to do, because when you're looking at sprouting your food and your legumes and pulses, etc., and it comes with, a certain level of maturity within the journey. And I'm striving to get there myself, but definitely I have come far in the 6 years that I've been on this journey. And it's a day-by-day process, and nobody can force you. It's something that you feel for yourself as well as you go along. So yeah, health problems, as we said, arise when the body becomes too acidic, and too many foods in the modern diet are acidic. And we aim to eat an alkaline, plant-based diet that will counter these effects. And like I said, I've spoken about the benefits that I've received, just being on this lifestyle for my menstrual cycle. And it's great, to not even feel your period coming or not even have any pain, and to go through the process and be done in 2 days versus 7 days. I don't know. For me, it just keeps getting better. And like I said, I'm 38 years old, and I wish I'd known this when I was, growing up. And this is what we're aiming to do, to ensure that, as many people as possible are aware of this, and as many women especially as possible are aware of this, because we are the ones that are the caregivers, that are the nurturers, that are preparing the food in our homes. We want to make sure that we are preparing foods that are good for our families, and that we're also empowering our partners to be on this healing journey with us. And, some of the clients that I've coached, especially working mothers will go through this process alone. And I'm always like, do it with your family, do it with your kids. They see you blending up nice smoothies there. It's nice for them too, It's not just for adults, or because I'm dieting, I'm trying to lose weight. Do it with your family, do it with a friend, do it with somebody. It's always so much easier when you can do this or walk this journey with others. Because it can be quite a lonely journey. I see Zanele's raised her hand. Please go for it.
Good morning.
Hi.
I just want to check something. I've recently been diagnosed as a pre-diabetic, and I'm working with a homeopath to actually reverse that. But now I'm getting a lot of conflicting ideas with regards to fruit. When I do smoothies, with regards to fruit and also some vegetables. Granted, most of the people that are giving me this information are people who are in the Western medication for diabetes. So their diet basically is that of, cut bread, cut fruit, cut potatoes, cut, the heavy starches from your veggies. And I'm failing to reconcile this, because I'm assuming if you're going plant-based and you're going proper food, like from your garden or from vegetables, is that an issue with blood sugar?
So the long and short of it is no. So like you said, we're looking at Western medicine, and I've got a lot of friends that are in the healthcare space, doctors, surgeons, pharmacists, and, especially the ones that are honest, they'll tell you that, when they're doing their training, when they're in their 5-7 years of training, food is like a chapter, like page 1, page 2, next chapter, we move on. It's not something that we focus on. It's not something that they dive deep into. So the short answer is no. There isn't a problem with following a plant-based diet and being diabetic. In fact, that's the thing that can actually help to reverse the diabetes, because you're getting in more fiber, you're getting in more good proteins, you're getting in starches that are ideally, you want to get in starches that digest quickly, right? And it's important to ensure that you're getting enough water. And we know that with diabetes, you're talking about the pancreas and blood sugar, right? And they say, oh, don't drink too much sugar or whatever. But we're talking about natural sugars. We're not talking about sugar from the bowl, or I'm taking 2 teaspoons of sugar. We're talking about fruit sugars, and this is the original sugar. And I'm not sure where you are in terms of your journey and how you've switched up your diet. But if you're not feeling comfortable, I would recommend maybe just have a smoothie 3 times a week, and then other days of the week you can try something like quinoa porridge. So grind down your quinoa into a flour and make porridge with that. Quinoa is an excellent source of protein. And then for your sugar, you can throw in dates, you can throw in apples, just to kind of monitor how you feel. Because ultimately I can give you, or a doctor can give you all these pills and say, take these and whatever. But on a day-to-day basis, are they really following up about how you feel? I think this is where now you need to come in and step in and say, look, I'm taking over and I'm just going to monitor myself and see how I feel. Keep a food journal if that helps. When I eat smoothies, this is how I feel. Notice, does my blood sugar drop? Because I can say, go for it, eat smoothies or whatever, but maybe that's not the way for it for you. So you have to test for yourself and see what works. But definitely I would say it shouldn't be a problem. A lot of people have actually reversed diabetes on a plant-based diet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Great. Thanks. Are there any other questions? I'm going to try and run through these slides and get to the Q&A. Okay, so I'll move on. I'm just going to get my slides here. Great. So, we talked about keeping our food as raw as possible and cooking as little as possible, within reason, of course. And then just to illustrate, how much time or how long it takes for certain foods to digest within the body. It says their digestion time varies according to the individual, and this also depends varies according to your health. Are you constipated? Do you already have any backlog, or are you in optimum health and food passes through very quickly? Also depending what kind of food you're eating. So for most healthy adults, it's usually between 24 and 72 hours. Okay, and after you eat, it should take about 6 to 8 hours for food to pass through your stomach and small intestine. Food then enters your large intestine, which is known as the colon. This is where colon cancer takes place, for further digestion and absorption of water. Elimination of undigested food residue through the large intestine usually begins after a total of 24 hours. Complete elimination may take several days. So for me, yeah, that rings true to a certain extent, but they say the general rule of thumb when things are in optimum shape within your body is typically after you eat food, you should have a movement, but this varies according, to different people and where you're at in your journey. But ideally, the food that you're eating should be pushing out the other food. But let's see how it goes. So it says, how long does it take, or how long does food spend in the stomach? And with liquids, when the stomach is emptied, it should leave and move into the intestines. This includes juices and teas as well, and this is like 15 to 20 minutes. And first thing in the morning, you can test this for yourself. When your stomach is empty, you have like a liter of water. You can literally feel it making its way through the stomach, like actually hear the sounds as well. And then they say fruits take 20 to 30 minutes. Vegetables, when they're raw, it should take 30 to 40 minutes. So you can already see, with vegetables and with fruits, it moves through your system quite quickly. But like I said, there's different poles, so there's vegetables that will move very, very quickly and vegetables that will move slower. So if you're going into your potatoes and your and potatoes are also used as glue. You can research that as well. So too much potatoes or too many potatoes, you're looking at constipation because it forms a plug within your colon. So try and eat as few potatoes as possible and rather look at sweet potatoes and rather pumpkin or butternut or squashes as alternatives. Yeah, so we said potatoes there, you have it, takes an hour. Grains, you're looking at 90 minutes. So this includes your rice. If you're going to eat rice, I would highly recommend that you invest either in black rice or wild rice. And let's leave the white rice and the brown rice to the side because these aren't so great for us. And if you do eat rice, or if you're going to have your white rice or your brown rice, like have it once in a while. Let that be your once in a while. Like if you're going to have a curry maybe, and you want to have that rice, have it once in a while, but not as an everyday thing. Certainly not an everyday thing. Your seeds and nuts take 2 to 3 hours. Ideally, you want to soak your seeds and nuts as well, if possible. Dairy, we're looking at 90 minutes. Whole milk and hard cheeses, we're now looking at 4 to 5 hours. So just think about, think about how often we're eating these foods and how often we're eliminating or having a bowel movement. And you can start adding up what's going on. And in some cases, some of us have years and years and years of backlog sitting in our colons, because some of this food is not passing because of the amount of time that it takes for it to digest. So if you're eating meat 7 days a week, 3 times a day, you can already start doing the math for yourself. Fish takes 30 to 60 minutes, chicken 1.5 to 2 hours, beef or lamb 3 to 4 hours, pork 4 to 5 hours. And we can see that these foods as well, your meats especially, are foods that are not alive. Okay, so this is dead food that's sitting and taking this much time to pass through the colon. Just think about that. And yeah. Moving along. So yeah, we spoke about preservatives and the things that are in our food, and the things that we are contained within the products that we use. And this includes aerosols, your air fresheners, just, all products, anything with the label on it. Look at the label and find out what those things mean. Some of the things we can't even pronounce, but we're all for it. Find out what the citric acid on, that needs to keep your chips preserved. What does citric acid do? Where does it come from? How does it relate to black mold? I'll just leave that there. So we know that preservatives have harmful effects, because these are things that we are synthetic, so not natural, synthetic things that are being put on our food to help it have a longer shelf life. And this all feeds into, the lifestyles that we lead, materialism, microwave food, this whole fast lifestyle. Preservatives is what keeps our food on the shelves for as long as possible. And some of the toxic chemicals found in preservatives, I mentioned parabens earlier, and this is linked to skincare and the things that we put on our skin, roll-on, talcums, lotions, etc. And studies have been found that parabens are linked to increased breast cancer, increased risk in breast cancer. And we know that not just women have breasts, men have breasts too. And we're all asking ourselves, oh, but how is it that men are getting breast cancer? That roll-on, the stuff you're putting on your skin, the soaps, the preservatives you're putting in your body, all of that is contributing to the state of disease, right? I can't even pronounce the next one, methylchloroisothiazolinone. I can't even say it right. Toxic to aquatic life and a potential endocrine disruptor. And these are things that are found in our food and in our skincare. Endocrine disruptor, meaning that we are disrupting the system that regulates the hormones. That's why we're seeing younger girls menstruating earlier. It's also in the water that we drink, tap water. If you can move away from drinking tap water, please, otherwise boil it if you're going to drink it, right? Because there's chemicals in there that are supposed to make the water safe to drink, but it's actually hormone disruptors, which is why we see younger girls starting to menstruate younger and younger and younger. It's disrupting the hormones. And what's going to happen to this individual, if they start menstruating at 7 when they're supposed to start menstruating at 12 or 13, what's going to happen to this individual and their reproductive cycle? If already they're starting to experience painful periods at the age of 7, where the mind isn't even ready, the body isn't even ready to start taking on these changes, and all this pain and all this trauma that's associated with, menstruation. What is this child's sexual health going to look like, or reproductive health going to look like at the age of 20? So much blood loss, so much trauma. There's a lot that goes into this. So we need to be very careful about what we're giving our children, what we're giving our families, what we're putting on our skin, what we're putting in our bodies, because there's a knock-on effect. BHT and BHA linked to reproductive and developmental toxicity and cancer. Formaldehyde releases. Formaldehyde, we know, is what they use to embalm bodies, to keep the body as fresh as possible before the decomposition process starts taking place. It's got a very horrible smell as well. And it's also known as formalin and methylene glycol. Formaldehyde is colorless, it's a strong smelling gas, and it presents a health hazard when breathed into the lungs, when it gets into the eyes or the skin. Yet we're putting this in our hair. It's contained in the relaxers that we're putting in our hair. How crazy is that? You're putting this right on your brain, We know that the skin is open, right? The skin is porous. What is the organ that is directly underneath your skull? It's your brain. All these keratin treatments that we're putting in the hair, leave that stuff. It's not good for you. It's linked to cancer. It's linked to respiratory irritation. It's linked to allergic reactions. People end up with sores that don't heal on their heads because of relaxers and all these chemicals that we're putting in our heads, right? We need to read the labels. I can't stress this enough. Read the labels of the food that you're putting in your body. Find out what it means. Find out what the effects are. And I guarantee you, if you're open to this journey and you're willing to make the changes, you'll make the changes very quickly. And once you know what's going on, it'll be very easy for you to move away from this stuff because you have a why. Right. So maybe just to dig deeper into parabens, they prevent the growth of mold, bacteria, and yeasts. They're added to cosmetics and personal care products to increase shelf life and stability, right? They're found in cosmetics and personal care items such as lotion, sunscreen, antiperspirants, makeup, and hair products. They can also be found in chewing gum and mouthwash. The science says that parabens are endocrine disruptors that can mimic estrogen in the body. Studies show that parabens affect the mechanisms of normal breast cells and influence their abnormal growth, leading to risk for breast cancer. Top tips: look for products labeled paraben-free. Common parabens include suffix paraben or hydroxyl benzoate in the name. So look out for those names if you're trying to avoid parabens. And like I said, we're coming up with products now, skincare lotion that we'll be launching where, it's 100% natural. It's all from nature and it's good for you. You can apply it on your hair. If you put it, on your skin, on your face, whatever, nothing is going to happen. All it can do is serve you. And this is how we're trying to take care of ourselves going forward. So before I wrap up, I just wanted to touch on, yes, we know there's all of these ways to heal. We know that, we need to take care of our bodies, we need to take care of our minds, but it's also important to understand, and this is stuff that nobody's talking about. I feel like this is what's missing in our education as human beings, all of this included, is that, we never touch into what the causes of suffering are. You're kind of just told, oh, you'll get through it, be strong. Are you strong? You always get through things, and this is how we get through life. But nobody actually ever comes and unpacks, what is the cause of suffering and how can is there a way to stop our pain and our suffering? And how can we move forward, without this pain and without this suffering and become the best versions of ourselves. And if you've studied maybe Buddhism or ancient yogi texts or even ancient texts, they all kind of allude to the same kind of thing, that there are 4 basic truths. And these 4 truths are facts. Okay, these are things that we cannot escape, but as you move through your journey, just keep these things in mind. And these are that pain and suffering exist in life. These are the things that we cannot escape. There will always be pain and there will always be suffering. These are things that we need to sometimes go through in order to get to our true selves, or to learn something, or to move on to or move to the next level. It's never without strife or without challenges. It's the ebb and flow of life. It's kind of like the waves in the ocean. When you're looking at the ocean, the waves come into the shore and the waves go back. They come into the shore and they go back. But we want to make sure that these waves are not knocking us off our sails, that we're able to maintain equilibrium when the waves come in and when the waves come out. So pain and suffering exist. This is something that we can't escape. And I think we all agree. Secondly, that there are causes to this pain and suffering. Okay, there is a root cause to your pain and to your suffering. And you can actually get to the root cause. For those that work in labs or in any kind of technical field where you're kind of doing audits on a regular basis, you know that you always do a root cause analysis. What caused this malfunction in the product or defect in the product? And you have to do a root cause analysis and find out what happened and, do the corrective action to make sure that it doesn't happen again, et cetera, et cetera. So there are causes to our pain and suffering, and we can get to the root cause of our pain and suffering. Excuse me, just wetting my throat. Thirdly, there are ways that are available that we can free ourselves from this pain and from this suffering. So there's good news in all of this. It's not all bad news. There's good news. There are ways, there are techniques. People have done it. People are doing it that can free ourselves from this pain and suffering. Okay. And I'll share these as we move along. And then lastly, there exists a state that is free from pain and suffering. How great is that? And this is the state that we're all trying to achieve, the enlightenment state, where you're balanced, where you're center point, where, you know, no one can tell you anything. You're a sovereign being, you know, you're beyond the wars and the strife of this lifetime. You're above all of that. You are in connection with all that is. All that is. You're connected to source. You are everything, you know. And as human beings, the state is available to us. We don't have to wait to die to get to heaven to experience the state. It's available to us here and now. In as much as pain and suffering exists, there is a state where that pain and suffering doesn't exist, and you can attain it in this lifetime. Okay. So these are known as the sources or the causes of human suffering. And if you're familiar with the yogic expression, these are called the kleshas, pancha kleshas, 5 kleshas. And these summed up, I'll just run through these because I want to leave some time for question and answers. We're talking about ignorance or lack of awareness. And just to you know, shed some light on these causes of pain and suffering, these are, you know, usually obstacles to our growth. They're usually obstacles to us moving to the next level, or, you know, learning the lesson and moving on, right? So just, you know, keep in mind as we run through these. So these are ignorance or lack of awareness, and this includes lack of awareness of self, you know, so moving around in life blindly, you know, not knowing who you are, not knowing what you like, not knowing what you don't like, you know, allowing other people to tell you what you like and what you don't like. How crazy is that? And this is a cause of our suffering, because in this way, you never really get to know who you truly are. You know, you never really know what, get to experience life in the way that you want. You kind of, you know, dictated by your circumstances and dictated by, you know, the situations around you. Like, oh, well, so I'm in a bad situation, and, you know, this is me for the rest of my life. No. There is a way out of it. In as much as these sources of human suffering exist, there are ways around that as well. But it's important to know what they are, so that, you know, when you come across them, you're able to recognize it immediately. And you're like, this is that. Okay, I need to just, you know, backtrack, or I just need to get back on, you know, the horse and, you know, keep it moving, and just know that in time, this too shall pass, right? So secondly, we're looking at the ego, right? And we know how many ways the ego can trip us up. All we have to do is look at, you know, leaders, or, you know, people who've done, you know, achieved great feats or whatever, and somehow, you know, let their ego get the best of them, and, you know, it ends up not being a great situation for the people around them. In as much as we talk about ego in the extreme sense, as in, you know, dictator type personalities, or, you know, type A type personalities or whatever, there's also the other extreme where you are, you know, not confident, or, you know, you are, you know, you don't show up in the most authentic way that is you, right? I can't find the word. But basically the opposite of an egotistical person, you know, a person who's just, you know, too humble, too meek, too this, too that, like you can just, you know, run over them, and it's just going to be like, you know, you finish them kind of thing. So like we said, there's extremes and lesser extremes, you know, within the same, when you're talking about, you know, one thing. Thirdly, we're looking at attachment, right? Attachment, you know, and this can be attachment to things, attachment to relationships, attachment to substances, attachment to belongings, attachment to status, attachment to so many different things, right? Situations that aren't great for us, right? We are all experiencing this by virtue of going through the human existence. But, you know, these things also bring us suffering. especially when they're not good when they're not good for us, right? And I know we can all resonate, or we can all relate at some level or another, how being attached or attaching yourself, putting your umbilical cord to something that's not good for you can just change your whole reality. Especially, let's look at it, for example, a bad relationship, or an abusive relationship, and you're attached to this situation. It can mess with your mind, it can mess with your body, it can mess with your children or the people around you. It has so many ripple effects, So we want to make sure that the things that we attach to are things that help us grow, things that help us thrive, things that help us become the best versions of ourselves, and not things that bring us down. Because, everything is energy, everything is vibrational frequency, we want to make sure we maintain, balance, that we're not too much in the negative energy, we're not too much in the positive energy where we can't, even relate or empathize with anyone. It's just all floaty and great. And, no. We want to make sure that we maintain balance. We're at the center of all of it. And then we choose the situations that we then want to bring into our situations or into our energetic fields. Fourthly, we have repulsion or hate. So extreme dislike or aversion to things, and we know how this can, manifest in our lives. This is where we have wars and, men against women and, blacks against whites and Indians against Chinese. And, it just carries on and on and on and on. And we know that this has no end. This is just basically polarities playing out the dance, right? And we want to make sure that, you're like I said, it all comes back to that center point, that balance, where you can see things for what it is, but you don't need to take on situations. You choose what you take on, and if you choose repulsion, if you choose hate, you gotta be willing to take what comes with that as well. There's consequences that come with taking in these energies as well, right? And then lastly, the last source of human suffering is a very strong desire for life. So the extreme end where it's just like, risk, screw risk. I'm just gonna, dive in. And we've seen how this, this can have really bad consequences, especially when the person isn't, fully aware of themselves or hasn't come into their awareness or consciousness. It can hurt people, and it can hurt people around you as well. Similarly, we also have, the extreme, the other pole, aside of the pole, is a very strong fear of death, and I wouldn't say, not say death included as well, but just in a strong fear of experiences, right? Everything is just, ooh, ha, 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 and you keep yourself closed off. This can cause suffering because you're kind of keeping yourself in a cage and not opening yourself up to experiences, So to sum it up, there's a book called The Body Keeps Score. I forgot who the author is, but I like the title of that book because it sums it all up. Everything that's happened to you, everything that's good and that's bad, but let's focus on the suffering because we're looking at, the sources of suffering. Everything that's ever happened to you, the body has kept score of that. There's a record of that within your body somewhere. Everything you've ever eaten or ingested, every situation you've encountered, everything, the sum total of all your experiences are recorded somewhere within your body. And that's a good thing, right? Because then we know that if there's a record of it somewhere, then there must be a way to access these records, right? And through all of this work, through living a holistic lifestyle, you're able to start listening. And we start letting go, and you start being more open to the healing process that this lifestyle presents. Then you allow yourself space to listen to your body, to listen to your thoughts, to listen to the people around you, to listen to the things that you're watching, listen to the things that you're interacting with, and really start examining them. Like, is this something that I want to continue engaging with? Or is it something that I want to let go and go through that process of letting go? And definitely you will start seeing the world differently. When you start becoming aware of these things, you will start seeing the world differently, especially when you realize that you can heal yourself. You can heal yourself of all these experiences that you've ever gone through. It's all within you, and it lies in the breath. It lies in the food that we eat and the thoughts that we think. You are able to tune yourself. You're not at the mercy of your thoughts, your past, or your emotions. You can make a change. And once you start realizing this, you'll realize that you're unstoppable. No one can stop you. No one can control you, because ultimately you depend on yourself. Ultimately, you are the source of your happiness. You are the source of your healing. You don't have to go outside to go and find healing. All you have to do is get on your mat, stretch, breathe, drink some water, get some sunlight, get lots of sun exposure, which helps to regulate the hormones in the body and counteract all these effects of these hormone disruptors in the body. Boosts your immunity. It supports healthy bones. It supports a healthy mind. It regulates your sleep-wake function, and it's natural. I don't know why a lot of us run away from the sun, especially people of African descent or people of who are melanated. The sun's going to burn me. How? The sun is good for you. The sun is good. If you're a carbon-based being, you need the sun. Okay, so let's stop playing games and start tapping into what's natural and what we know is good for us. I don't think I've got any other slides after this, do I? No. Okay, so that's the slides for today. I know I went a little bit over time, but if you'll indulge me and if you have a few more questions, then we can run over by a few minutes. But that's pretty much what I wanted to present today. I hope that it was of use to you. And I enjoyed sharing this and look forward to, connecting more and doing more of these kind of sessions. And I really, really hope that it's more of an interactive session, and that I think next time I'll probably budget more time. But I just wanted to open it up. If you have any questions, anything you'd like to add or contribute. Thanks so much, Alex. Very useful and well done. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So maybe before you go, fantastic. Thanks for joining. Before you go, I just wanted to let you know that I will be sharing a feedback form link, if that could be put up in the chat. If you could please get your feedback, of what you thought of this session, if you'd like to see more types of sessions, and if you'd like us to contact you. That's essentially what we're trying to understand, also so we can improve and keep delivering better content. And then also just to let you know that just by virtue of participating in this masterclass, I just want to say thank you so much, first of all. And also to let you know that I'm offering you a 10% discount code to use throughout my website, so the online store. And this includes, yoga classes. So everything on the store will be available to you at a 10% discount. And I think the discount code will be put up in the chat box, as well as the link to the website. So just to let you know that that's available for you before you go. But if anyone else is able to stay on and you've got questions, please feel free to share or ask away. Yes, Zen. Would you like to put your camera on so we can see you? Yes.
Hi, thanks for sharing that. It was very insightful for me. And when you're talking about the body keeping score, I just posted this in the chat as well. I want to know, does the body also keep score of positive and uplifting experiences as well? Or does it only keep score of negative ones?
Right, thank you. So the body keeps score of everything. Okay, so both positive and negative experiences, right? Mm-hmm. And the positive experiences are the experiences that we want to reinforce, the things that are good for us, right? And the negative experiences, I'm not saying, once you go through this process, you'll eliminate all negativity from your life. It's an ongoing process, but we know that the healing is an ongoing process, and we want to make sure that we're staying with our practice, whatever your practice is. So when I was talking about the pain and suffering, I think I was just more looking at, the pain points, the things that hinder us from our growth, in that the body keeps score and we can clear those blockages out of our body. For example, we mentioned clearing blockages within the colon through the food that we eat, through water, through movement, through breath, etc., etc. clearing hurts, emotions, whether it's seeing a therapist, whether you're doing some kind of special yoga practice, maybe you're doing Kundalini yoga or meditation or, Swara yoga, which is brain yoga, whatever it is, it can help. There are modalities that are available that can help to clear blockages within the body. But yes, the body does keep score of both positive and negative experiences. And this is how then we're also able to look back into our past lives. This is when we start talking about Akashic records, your Akasha. And this is where you can now even go back into previous lifetimes and see, because it's all encoded within your DNA, right? See what happened, with your ancestors or what happened to you in past lives. We are able to get into these states, but we need to make sure that the body is in tune and aligned in order to access the subtler states where we can now start seeing what is the challenge. I hope that answers your question.
Thanks.
Great, and thanks for holding it down. I think you're the only gentleman here. Great. Any other questions? Yes, I'll go with Zanele first. Sorry, because I saw her first, and then Nomlelo, you can go after.
Your holistic eating guideline.
Mm-hmm.
How simple is it? I've often seen a lot of guidelines, granted not much from South Africa, which then have food that we don't readily have here.
Mm-hmm. Great question. So if you're not aware, I have a 30-day holistic eating guideline that is available within the website or within the online store. And it is very simple. I don't like things that take too long. I like my food and my eating to be as simple as possible, also because I have a very busy 9-to-5 job as well. So I tend to spend maximum 30 minutes in the kitchen. That's from from food preparation to when I'm sitting down to eat. That's as much time as I can spare. So my guideline is pretty straightforward. I like to keep it simple. I like to keep it fresh. The ingredients are natural ingredients that are available within South Africa. Some are imported ingredients, so they might be a little more expensive. But luckily, I'm glad that, a lot of entrepreneurs are seeing the call to start, producing locally produced or superfoods, for example, things like baobab, marula. These are things that you can use here. So if you don't have access to maca powder, for example, which is available in South Africa, by the way, but it's an import. There are natural alternatives within South Africa that you can substitute with. But everything within my eating guideline is things that I get, within my surrounding environments. I mean, I live in the Randburg area, so a lot of my nuts and seeds and vegetables and things that are within this guideline I get from Carrera Center in Randburg. So yeah, everything is readily available, and there are alternatives as well. And when you can't get something as well, I mean, you don't have to get everything that's within the shopping. There's a shopping or grocery list that's provided. If it's something that you can't get right now, it's also okay. The main thing is just to get the fruits and the vegetables in. So supplements, take your time if it's a little bit too much for you. And a lot of people will complain that in the beginning, it's a lot more expensive, etc., etc. Some of the stuff, like I said, is imported as well. And until local entrepreneurs also start taking up the call to start producing locally produced products, this is the situation that we're going to be in. And like I said, everything is available within this country. Even if they were to shut down the borders, within our local context, we can get everything that we need. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Nomlelo, you had a question?
Zanele has actually asked part of my question, because I just wanted to start first with mentioning what I experienced. then to get into the holistic guideline that you've got, because it was last year, yeah. I started gymming because, you know, I'd gained a lot of weight because I'd gone through a very depressive period where I was just like, I'd locked myself indoors and I was just eating my emotions away. And I think one day I walked past the mirror and I was like, who's that? And then I like literally had to go back and realize it's me. And I then started gym, and I decided to look into, like, you know, cutting down or cutting out certain foods. And where I went wrong was I cut the foods out just to see what would happen. And then I went back to them. And then I think that's where I messed up, because then I cut out like a lot of like dairy, like I cut out cheese. And when I went back to eating cheese again, I started getting so sick. And I was like wondering, why am I getting sick? Because I've had cheese literally my whole life. And I cut cheese out for like 8 months, and suddenly I eat it again and I'm getting sick. I cut out meat. I haven't had meat in a year. But like, it's like now having gone back to eating cheese and eggs, I'm like letting go again now is like so hard to do again. And I think that's where I like probably I'd say messed up, because I shouldn't have done that. But that's what I wanted to ask about your guideline. Like, is it like specific? Does it have recipes and stuff? Because that's the other thing that I struggled with last year, because I was like, okay, fine, I'm cutting this out. But then I'm like, I was having the same thing every day. Like literally, I'm so tired of eating chickpeas. Like, I think I've replaced every like protein in my life with chickpeas. And if somebody offers me chickpeas right now, I'm like, please don't. So that's, I just wanted to find out if it's got like, it's got a variety of things, because that's what I'm looking for at the moment. But not just a variety, but also a guide of how I'm going to prepare the food, because I can only make so much chickpea curry.
Great question. So yeah, that's pretty much how I designed this guideline, because I've been there before, right? I know what starting this journey on your own looked like, and I did it all on my own. Like, I had no one kind of, you know, guiding me. You know, it was just kind of like, and there weren't a lot of people locally when I went on this journey 6 years ago. So a lot of the people I was dealing with were people overseas, you know, and they're like, yeah, you need to get this and this and this. And it's like, yeah, at the time, CMOS wasn't even available in South Africa. Everyone's like, yeah, CMOS. And I'm like, where can I get the CMOS? You know, as I'm saying, it's also a great opportunity for entrepreneurs now to now start, you know, getting the products in so that, you know, they can flood the market, and we can all start getting our healing on. So I know what it's like to, you know, start and, you know, just basically you have a repository of a week of recipes, for example. And after that, it's on repeat, and that gets boring, and that can get really tired very quickly. So the eating plan contains a shopping list. So it's a 30-day shopping list, and week 1, week 2, week 3, you know, it tells you what to get. And then it has a guideline, a 30-day like calendar, like, okay, your day 1, you know, will look like this and like this. And the way it's broken down is such that, you know, to start off with, we're going to start off with the cleanse. So for about 10 days, you'll be cleansing. And then the rest of the time, we'll start reintroducing foods. And it's kind of like a template, right? So, you know, you can run through it for the first 30 days. Then after a while, you know, you kind of starting to feel how your body reacts to certain things. You know, how you feel when you're eating more cooked food, how you feel when you eat raw food, and you can start playing around with it. So it's like a template, you know, it eases you in. But it's certainly something that I do on a month-to-month basis, you know. Every now and then I'm detoxing, every now and then, you know, I'm going through the raw, every now and then I add a little more food, you know, just so that the body is not constantly in starvation mode, you know. So it's basically keeping the body guessing. And I've lost weight. I went through that process, you know, of lockdown, of gaining weight, etc., and I've lost about 11 kgs now doing this. And I'm so excited because, like, wow, this actually does work, and I've tested it on myself. You know, like I said, it's had an effect on my period. So as you're going through the cleansing process, watch your monthly cycle as well, and see how it reacts to the changes. In the beginning, it might seem heavy or extreme. You might go through breakouts, like I'm still going through the breakouts. And that just means there's more healing and more cleansing that needs to take place. Don't run away from the process. You know, we're so conditioned as well. You know, when you start seeing the breakouts, like, oh, I need to put a cream to make it stop. No, allow the process to happen. allow the process to happen. So I've got recipes in there, recipes for smoothies. It tells you the quantities, how much to put in, salad recipes, how to put the salad together, what you need to get, meal recipes, how to do it, like the method, how long in the oven, how long you can do this. You don't only have to roast your chickpeas, you can also have chickpea patties, you can buy chickpea flour, you can make scrambled eggs out of your chickpeas. You can roast your chickpeas and make snacks with them. So there's many different ways. And this is the first of many guides to follow as well. This is like the beginning for me as well. And I plan to put together recipe books and baking guidelines and all of that within this alkaline space, because there's so much within the space. Desserts, the list is endless. But definitely it tells you when to eat what, how to put it together. It's all laid out for you. And yeah, I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, you did. Thank you. And you've also mentioned something else now that I wanted to ask. I know that now you've got this eating guideline, but are you also looking into other things? Because there's an Instagram page that I followed because you had shared something of theirs that they had posted. And in one of their posts, they were talking about the effects that toothpaste has on our teeth, because it has fluoride and stuff. And then I was like, okay, so what's the alternative then? Like, what am I going to brush my teeth with? Am I going to walk around with stinky breath here because now I can't brush my teeth? And then I then found out about how people are using coconut oil for pulling, and sometimes they use bicarb just, to whiten their teeth. And I was like, okay, fine. That gives me a solution for my teeth. But what about my skin? Like, what do I put on my skin? Do I really need to wear sunscreen? Do I need to have like this 10-step process where I need to wash my face, tone it, put, like 10 serums on before I put moisturizer on? Like, and then again, like, are these serums fine? Because another thing that I was speaking to a friend of mine about when it comes to food, at first I thought I'd found like this oat milk, and I was like, oh, great, look at me, I'm trying out oat milk. And she's like, did you look at the ingredients? And I was like, it's oat milk, it's perfect. Like, what do you mean, am I supposed to look at the ingredients? And then I turned this oat milk around, and it's got like all these preservatives, like you said, that we can't even pronounce. And I was like, great. So now even the oat milk that we think is fine is not really okay. You need to read the labels of food that you think is even healthy. So, then I had to go to Discam and find just oat milk that had just oats and water. And I was like, okay, I guess this is it then. But like, it was just that. So in terms of like the food thing, I can see that it's quite easy to access like everything related to food when it comes to trying to eat live a healthier life or a plant-based diet. But what about everything else, like your skin, your teeth, because now those are the things that are concerning me, because I'm thinking about like, okay, fine, am I then going to have to use like toothpaste once a week, and then use what do I use for deodorant?
Exactly. Great question. So there are alternatives. I mean, even Discam has alternatives for all of these things. But I would, I tend to want to support local brands as well. And we can definitely share the brands that are, local, that are pioneering in this space as well. And this is definitely a space that I see myself also playing in, quite more prominently in the future, because of somebody that has experienced skincare problems all my life. Like, I just have dark patches all over my body from, how eczema ravaged my body. And that was because I was gluten intolerant. I was always allergic to gluten. Gluten is in bread, gluten is in chips, gluten is in everything that they, that you can imagine. Even some of the oat milks use gluten-free, oats, right? And you get gluten-free oats, which basically means that it's grown in a field separate away from the wheat and the barley and all of that, right? So skincare, there are a few people that are, I think I'll type them in the chat. Or Zen, if you could verify this. Nice Limited has stuff You know, she's got like skincare. She uses, she's got soaps that are infused with sea moss. You know, sea moss contains 92 of the 102 minerals that the body needs. So it's very nutritious. It's, you know, good for ingesting, and it's also good for the skin. So soaps that contain sea moss, that clarify the skin, that draw out the toxins. You can use African black soap as well. There's quite a few suppliers as well. I'm currently using African black soap, and it's actually drawing out a lot of pulling out things from my skin. And I use sea moss as a mask, for example. In terms of toothpaste, there's toothpaste available within Dis-Chem, but you can make your own as well. I mean, you can Google, you know, homemade toothpaste recipe, gluten-free, vegan, paraben-free, or whatever, and things will come up. But I think these are things that I will probably start sharing as posts. So thanks for letting me know that, you know, these are things that you're interested in. I'm sure other people are wondering as well. You know, so maybe look out for the post as well, and I'll start directing you in terms of things that I'm using and some of the products that are out there as well. But definitely, you know, coconut pulling is great. Just don't spit down the drain, because coconut oil hardens, and we don't want to clog up your drain. So spit into, you know, the ground, or, you know, into tissue or whatever, or into the bin, but not into the sink, because yeah, speaking from experience, that happened. And then in terms of roll-on and deodorant, there are roll-ons that are natural. These are available from Dis-Chem. I'll share what I'm using. Nice Limited also has powder, or you can also even Google homemade natural roll-on, and it uses a combination of bentonite clay, you know, bentonite clay pools, bicarb of soda, you know, essential oils, etc., etc. Parsley is also a great breath freshener. You can chew it or chop it up into your salads as much as you like. Forgot to mention that as well. But skincare, like I said, have a look at the website. I haven't launched it yet officially, but I don't know if you can see that. But I'm releasing a body mousse or a body lotion as well, that is completely natural, that is Joburg weatherproof, because you know how harsh the Joburg weather is out here. And yeah, like I said, but there's many other products as well out there. And then in terms of plant milks, you can also make your own, you know, so basically you blend your oats with your milk, cheesecloth, strain it, and that's your milk. You can do the same with seeds, with nuts, you know. You can also Google online for recipes. I mean, this is something I can share as a post as well. But if you can go natural, go for it. In the meantime, don't be so hard on yourself, but just be aware of what, you know, the consequences of of consuming some of these things are as well. And we're not going to get it 100% all the time, but it's more the awareness and also limiting the stuff that's not so great for you. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah,
I'm liking
these
questions. Yeah, please keep them coming.
Now I could talk you under the table any day. Like, I talk for days. So yeah,
No
but
problem.
you've answered my questions. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Great. Zanele, are you okay?
I'm okay. And thanks a lot for this. You know, it makes it sound doable. I've done plant-based I think for a month in 2019, and I enjoyed it. But you know, yeah, old habits die. So
and pressure. The thing is, you know, it's a lonely journey as well. Like I said, I've been doing this for 6 years, and don't get discouraged. You know, if you're going on this journey, have a why. Your why has to be very strong. Why am I doing this? And my whys were very strong. Like, I'm tired of being sick, and I want to take my health into my own hands. When I was growing up and visiting my grandmother, you know, anything that happened, there isn't running to the doctor. Hey, now you must pay 600 consultation fee for a script of medication that you can make at home. You know, going to visit your grandmother, you know, slight cough, it's honey, they boil the guava leaves, they put in the lemon juice, whatever, and they give that to you until your cough clears. You know, now we're so reliant on pharmaceutical medications, things that are foreign to us, and we're abandoning nature. You're abandoning your mother, you know, by running to these other solutions. And for me, I was tired of that. I was like, no, this is not me, especially as a person of this soil, a person of this land. There's got to be a better way, you know. So make sure you're strong, your why is strong, and then that will knock out all the pressures and, you know, all the old habits and people around you. People around you will resist it. You know, they'll come up with many reasons why you should eat meat. but we know, we've seen, the effects of these diets. We've seen what it's doing to us. We've seen what it's done to our families. Many of us have lost people to lifestyle diseases, things that could have been prevented. Some of us are even with these lifestyle diseases, things that we can easily prevent, by just eating the right thing, thinking the right thing, and doing the right things for our lives. So thank you so much for spending time and for taking the time out to listen and to share as well. I hope to run more of these more often. And yeah, if you ever need anything, or you're a bit lost, or you're not sure about what to do, please feel free to reach out to me. This is why I'm here. And I know that it's difficult. It's not easy. It's not meant to be easy, but the fruits are so worth it. The fruits are so worth it. So thank you so much for your time and your attention. And I give thanks to the ancestors. I give thanks to the teachers. I bow down to the wisdom. This is not me speaking of my own accord. This is information that was passed on to me, that I was charged to share. I can't keep this to myself anymore. I can't experience health and vitality and wealth and abundance and life in abundance all by myself. I have to shine the light. I have to shine my light. And I hope in doing so that it sparks something in you, and that you'll continue to, share that spark and spread healing and wellness, around you. So thank you so much. And take care of yourselves. Like I said, feel free to reach out. I'm here for you.